Let me just start off by saying this. Damn, Japanese media's love of wordplay, not making it easy for us. What's up, guys? We've got a whole new Gundam universe to talk about that has just been announced. We're sure to get a lot more information on it in the days and weeks to come, but in this video, I wanted to break everything down for you, what all we know so far based on the couple of teasers that we have. We've got a new anime coming out, a new game that was announced last month that is related with the anime, and of course, we've got new model kits coming out as well. And so as you guys know, Bandai is ramping up to the 50th anniversary of Mobile Suit Gundam coming up in 2029 with a bunch of projects planned. But starting next year in 2027, we've got the RG project, which is going to be kicking off as a mixed media project, as they have titled it, which is going to basically use an anime and a game that are both going to be coming out around the same time, and they're both existing in the same universe, telling it from different points of view. So fresh off the heels of the ZAkuAurelius anime series, we've got another anime series with a kind of confusing name here, Mobile Suit Gundam RG XARX-ZERO. Now they keep putting it in parentheses that it's meant to be pronounced as Alex-Zero, but if you just look at the Japanese and kind of how it's meant to obviously be a play on words with the RX-Zero, the Gundam, it's based on the same Japanese pronunciation of Alex, but in English you could kind of say it as Alex, but it also sounds exactly like just the Japanese pronunciation of RX, so yeah, it's that kind of fun play on words there. But that's the anime series that's going to be coming out. The anime series takes place 100 years before the events of the story of the game, which we already again saw the teaser for the game Gundam Rogue Orbit. And when the game teaser trailer dropped last month, it was met with a lot of mixed opinions just kind of on the overall look of it existing in the Gundam universe, and it has a very different look. It showed the Gundam fighting aliens, and although there were some familiar elements to the Gundam's design, it just had a very different look to it. So we'll come back and talk some more about that, but with the anime taking place first chronologically, it makes sense to talk about the anime here first. So first of all, the director is Kenji Kamiyama. Some of you guys might be familiar with his work. He is famous for his work on some of the Ghost in the Shell series, Blood the Last Vampire, going way back in his career. He's worked on a couple of Cyborg 009 series, as well as the Eden of the East series, among other things. So some of you guys might be familiar with his work. I'm personally not that familiar with him, but he expressed excitement at the opportunity to take Gundam in just kind of a little bit different direction, in his own direction. And I think that's a good thing. I think we're definitely going to see something that will probably have a lot of familiar Gundam elements to the anime series, but we'll definitely have kind of a different take on it. So it'll be kind of refreshing, and I'm quite looking forward to that. And on a side note, they are also going to have Animation Studio Sola working on this project. And then just to get into what we're going to actually be seeing here, so our lead Gundam is the Gundam ZERO. This Gundam designed by Eiichi Shimizu and Tomohiro Shimoguchi. Obviously it has that traditional Gundam tricolor scheme with the white as the primary color and then red, blue, and yellow as the accents. A little bit different this time in that it has the two shields on the arms. Actually, my first thought when I saw this, I don't know why, something about the design reminded me of the Gundam Shining Break, but a lot of people have also pointed out the fact that it does look a little bit like something out of 00 as well. I think that's a lot in like the leg design there. But overall, I have to say I do really like the design of this. Very slender, very humanoid in its appearance, and that's going to be something that is going to come into play in the game as well. But this time around for the Gundam RG universe, you can tell that they're going for Gundam designs that are very humanoid in their design and proportions, I guess. And then our main character who's going to be piloting the Gundam this time is Azumi Rei. You can tell it's kind of a little bit kind of similar name to Amuro Rei in there, kind of interesting. But in a sort of typical war anime trope, our lead character is an orphan from the war, which kind of set the story events into motion. And I'm sure that's going to come into play, the fact that his parents were killed in the war that kind of started off the devastation that we're going to see in the anime. So just starting off by taking a look at this key visual, obviously there's a few things to note. The Gundam has an alien sort of looking arm. It's got the bandages wrapped around the other arm, has this big cloak off the back of it. You can see it sitting up on top of this building, and in the background all the other buildings are just like destroyed. It's like this post-apocalyptic landscape there. You have all these swords stuck in the side of the building there next to the Gundam as well, and the pilot there being held in the Gundam's hand. And also just wanted to show you guys this kind of cool. We have these rough draft images of the key visual, which I just thought were kind of cool and I wanted to share with you guys. So shout out to the artist who worked on these. You guys can check them out on Twitter, Stato. And so as I said, Gundam RG is going to be a completely new universe. This is not taking place in the Universal timeline or any other timeline that's already been established in different series. I do have some suspicions that there will be some connection possibly to the Universal Century that may be revealed at some point, but maybe we'll come back to that at a later time. Anyway, there is a short story synopsis here on the website that I just thought it makes sense to just kind of read it to you verbatim. So, thanks to 3 blessings brought from outside the solar system, humanity experienced unprecedented prosperity and expanded its territory throughout the entire solar system. Gravity control, faster than light communication, and the materialization technology of images, the interstellar travel-capable object that brought these 3 blessings, however, went out of control less than 10 years after its discovery, giving rise to an aggressive, self-replicating system. People equated this unknown ecosystem with the apocalypse. After 3 months of fighting, the battle lines became deadlocked in satellite orbit, humanity was forced to abandon Earth, and this year was recorded as the first year of the after-apocalypse AA. In AA 45, children born on the moon and in colonies have come to live with the existence of the apocalypse as a part of their daily lives. On the moon, a young boy named Azumi Ray awakens. So it's a short synopsis, but it gives us a lot to go off of. Obviously, there's like a lot of trope going on here with this one. You have the typical Gundam, like space colonies, people living in space. There's a war between the Earth and space, not necessarily Earth, but it seems that that's going to be basically the primary home of the apocalypse, which is going to be actually the name of the enemy force that they're going to be fighting against, the aliens here in this case. But as a big sci-fi fan, personally, I'm definitely looking forward to some more of the science fiction elements that are going to be in this one. Kind of reminds me a bit, at least at a glance, of the kind of 3 Body Problem series. I wonder if that book series, and then obviously there's a Netflix series as well, inspired at all the creation of this, or the story of this in any way. But we also got a teaser trailer, which I want to go through here in just a second. But one more interesting thing that was on the website that I wanted to point out, there's a quote here where it says, "A boy who will determine the fate of the world," kind of pretty standard like hero language, right? But then the next part is interesting here where it goes on to say, "A mobile suit that will bear the burden of his choices." Now I think that's going to be really interesting, how that image that we saw of the Gundam, and you'll see at the very end of the trailer as well, the Gundam with this kind of alien arm and the bandages and everything, how the choices of the main character will impact the Gundam kind of rather than the other way around. A lot of times we see how, operating the Gundam affects the character, and I'm sure there will be some of that as well. But in this case, we'll actually see some changes to the Gundam itself through probably just the choices that the character makes, through the way that it's going about combating this threat. And I would assume probably some of that element is, taking some of what is the enemy basically and incorporating that into itself in order to fight the enemy. And that's kind of what it looks like, what we can see here for from the key visuals and everything. So all right, let's go through the trailer. I'm just going to kind of break it down for you. I'm not going to show the video of it just because I don't want the video to get demonetized. You guys can go and watch the video. I'm just going to show you some stills and we'll just kind of go through it. So starts off here, first of all, with this 50th anniversary Sunrise Studio logos, which is really cool. And right from the start, we see this asteroid coming to Earth and some pretty extreme destruction there, which the way that it sounded in the synopsis didn't sound that it necessarily was a cataclysm from the start. It sounded like the object just kind of arrived from space and wasn't necessarily a threat at first. It was only within 10 years, as I said, that it became a threat, and then it became a problem. So I'm not sure if this initial scene that we're seeing in the trailer is actually the arrival of this object causing this mass devastation, or if that's maybe a different event. We see this kind of new element and these scientific experiments going on. You see this new crystalline substance, and then just kind of like later on how it goes on to wreak havoc on the Earth there. So that crystalline element that we see in there is going to be something that we're going to see a lot through the story as like the basis for the enemy, basically. We got a really quick shot here of our Haro for the series. It's a very small black Haro, which looks really cool, and you can see the shot of our main character in this kind of post-apocalypse landscape there. In the background, there's a shop with a banner flag with a Haro on it there as well. I'm not sure if it's meant to be like a Haro repair shop or something like that, perhaps, but translating the banner, it just comes up as Kikan Kosha. I'm not exactly sure what that means, so if anybody has an idea more to as the translation of that, or if it's just a name, I'm not sure. Anyway, we see a female character here who we can assume is probably going to be our love interest for the story. And then I really love this next shot with the Gundam's shadow flying over the buildings as the reveal of the Gundam. This is how we're introduced to it, just kind of flying over all the tops of these buildings here. Then we have the reveal of the Gundam, and there's a very quick image of the Gundam Zero, and you can see it with its 2 different color eyes. Now on the key visual, it's got the 2 different color eyes when it has that alien arm, but before that, just the original form of the Gundam Zero, I guess, has 2 yellow eyes, so that's definitely going to be something that's going to happen when it kind of transforms, as it were. We also have the shot of like a mono-eye mobile armor flying along there, which is going to be a sort of alien enemy mobile armor. And there's a wide shot of the massive alien crystal egg thing flying above the city that you could actually see from below in an earlier image. But this wide shot shows it floating above the city, and it happens to be New York. You can see in the corner of the image there that this is in New York, so it's different that it's not taking place in Tokyo or in Japan, kind of which is the usual for a lot of anime. And then we get another quick shot of the crystal effect on humans, or at least taking place within what looks like a cockpit of a mobile suit. You can see like these crystals kind of exploding kind of all around him. And then there's a couple of really cool shots involving the Apocalypse alien. It's kind of like if you blink, you'll miss it. You really have to kind of look at it frame by frame to see what's going on. There's one shot here where you can clearly see what looks like the arm of an Apocalypse kind of ripping the head off of a mobile suit, and it's got like this Evangelion style like mechanical spine that's being ripped out there with the head. That looks really cool. And then we have this shot of what looks like sort of what is going to be like our Zaku of the series, which we'll see some more of in a second, like very briefly. But it's all like infected with crystal, and it's got like the legs growing out of the back, and that's like walking on the backs, like the Zaku is sort of like upside down, and you can just kind of see it turn around here briefly. And another shot coming up here in just a second, we see what is likely the same infected mobile suit here of our Zaku for the series, which number one is white, or appears to be white anyway, the one that we're seeing here in this image. And we can only kind of see it very briefly, but you can see some very iconic Zaku kind of style design elements of it. It's got the mono-eye there, of course. And I want to just pause for a second to just kind of theorize as to like what we're seeing as the enemy, because if it's like mobile suits versus mobile suits, where you have like different factions of humans fighting against each other, and then they're also fighting against the aliens, could be one thing. Or are these enemy like Zeon style, the mobile armor that we saw and the Zaku, are these like mobile suits or like crystal aliens kind of in the form of mobile suits that we're seeing, and then just kind of they can take on this more kind of like infected form where like the infection like part kind of takes over, like we saw in the shot before where it's walking on those kind of like alien legs coming out of the back of the Zaku. And we'll see some more of that actually in another shot later on. But there's a part on the website where it explains that the Apocalypse are silicon life forms separated and multiplied from an interstellar object that arrived from space. And if you look closely at the image of the mobile armor, you can see it has a little bit kind of biomechanical design, not completely mechanical. It looks a little bit kind of organic in its design, and it has like the crystals kind of coming out the back. Almost seems to be like the propulsion system for the mobile armor, or these crystals out the back. So I don't know if it's that there are like mono-eye style like mobile suits that also exist in this universe, and they are just becoming infected by this crystal like alien Apocalypse alien force, but I'm really not sure on that, so let me know your guys' theory. But moving on here back to the teaser trailer, we've got our gym for the series, which as you can tell, like design wise looks very similar to the Gundam, kind of how in the original series you have the original GM and the ARC-72 Gundam. We've got kind of that dynamic going on here with these being our Grunt, kind of mass-produced type mobile suits for the series, also in like your standard gym colors, like the primarily white with a little bit of orange on there. So those look really cool. We are going to see the inside of the cockpit of that here in just a second. There is a quick shot of a mobile suit pilot, which is maybe a pilot of one of the gym units, perhaps because we've got this female character here that appears to be probably a mobile suit pilot. And then yeah, the interior of the cockpit, you can see it's using a 360 style display, where this is what the pilots are going to see when they're in the cockpit. The screen of their surroundings is kind of wrapped all around them, and then on the chair behind her also you can see this like little plushie. And just a heads up, I'm sure that at some point we're going to have this released as an actual like real world like plushie that you can buy. So if you guys like the look of that, you can count on that coming out probably sometime next year as well, if not maybe before, as just like a merchandise item that you can buy. After that, we get a series of shots of some of the other main characters from the series. You've got this kind of typical kind of strong guy who's probably going to be a little bit sort of like a mentor kind of character to our main character. You've got this guy who looks to be kind of like the more kind of cocky mobile suit pilot kind of guy. And then a female character here, which almost looks like she could be like the sister of Rey, our main character. They look a bit similar, I'm not sure. And then a couple of other female characters. You've got kind of like the buttoned up, serious female, maybe mobile suit pilot character here, as well as a female character who seems to be maybe like a captain of the ship or something like that. And then our Char clone for the series. So we've already got the reveal of him, no mask or anything, but he does have the typical blonde hair, the typical like red jacket with the black and gold accents, almost sort of like full frontal in that sense, without the luxurious full frontal hair. But our Char clone for the series there sat in a chair, and then the very next frame after that is what is probably that character's mobile suit. We've got another Gundam type mobile suit here, it looks like, which is all in red. It looks very similar in its design to the Gundam Zero, but in this case it's got horns on the head, a little bit different kind of look to it, a little bit different features to it. Its gun also looks to be a little bit different. You can only see it, just very briefly in this one kind of very imposing looking shot there, but it does look look really, really cool. And the next couple of shots show our main character kind of going down through this structure and then getting into a cockpit as well, which the internal mechanics of the cockpit look really cool. And you can kind of hear this background audio spoken where it sounds a bit like it's saying like Amuro Rei. Yamero Rei! And I mentioned before that the main character's name, Azumi Rei, already sounds very similar to Amuro Rei. So the first couple of times listening to this, I kept thinking like, is it saying Amuro Rei and then something? But after listening to it more closely, I realized that it's saying Yamero Rei, which Yamero is just like, stop it. And then the line of dialogue goes on to say Yamero Rei, and then this time the universe will really collapse. So just that's the bit of dialogue there, in case anyone else was like me and kept hearing Amuro Rei when he says that. It's not, but we see once again the Gundam here, the Gundam Zero, with its two yellow eyes. So earlier on, again, before its transformation. And then we get this really cool action shot where the Gundam kind of jumps in and slide tackles this enemy. Now this looks to be like the kind of infected Zaku that we saw in this image before. And then after the slide tackle, the next shot shows the Gundam kind of slashing that enemy with its beam saber. It's really cool. And so it's got this infected Zaku there. And I think what we're seeing throughout this teaser is probably a series of events that's happening in probably the first episode. And we're just kind of seeing them in a little bit kind of out of order. So just to kind of reorganize these shots into what I think is probably going to be the order of how they're going to play out in the scene in the anime. We'll have the Zaku, it'll become like, it's like infected form, and then the Gundam will attack it, and then the Gundam will destroy it with the beam saber. There's a shot towards the end of the teaser here where you actually see the Gundam like pulling out its beam saber, so that'll probably be in there too. And then you'll have this final shot of the Gundam taking out this enemy with the beam saber there. So that's probably how that will play out, maybe. We'll see. After that, we see a little bit more of the mobile armor, because kind of as I'm calling it, I don't know if it's technically going to be a mobile armor, but it does kind of now, as we're seeing it with the Gundam riding on the back of it, it's got legs at the bottom. It sort of looks like a similar silhouette to like the Big Zam. It's got this big wide like head body and then just two legs sticking out the bottom. But you see the Gundam riding on the back, and then the next shot's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like a beam from the beam cannon of that mobile armor blasting like right up against the shields of the Gundam. The Gundam's got its shields up, and it looks like it's got some sort of like eye field generator kind of effect going on there, that it's blocking the beams. And the shot after that, we see the Gundam driving its beam saber directly into the mono-eye of that mobile armor there. So you can kind of see already now from this teaser how that enemy is going to be dispatched in probably the either first, second, or third, I would imagine, like very early on in the series there, that this battle is going to be taking place. And then there's a shot following that as well where we see the Gundam kind of dodging some beam fire. I don't know if that's from this mobile armor, or that could be beam fire from like that red Gundam maybe we saw, maybe from its first encounter with the red Gundam. It's dodging some of that beam fire there and then kind of going into attack. We do also see an image of the pilot and the Gundam kind of upside down, with the gravity being like on one of the technologies that they get from this alien source. I imagine we'll probably see a lot of that kind of messing with the gravity in different ways in this story. And then, like I said, we've got this shot of the Gundam pulling out its beam saber, standing there for a second, and then kind of going into attack. And I will just say, the close-up image of the Gundam, I love how much detail they've got in there. So I think it's going to be really nice when we have these more kind of close-up shots of the Gundams to have all this really cool mechanical detail. That's one thing that I'm going to really appreciate when watching the anime of this. And then after that, we have this final shot, which is just like a slow pan up of the Gundam Zero, but this is where we're seeing it as it appears in the key visual, with that kind of alien arm, with the bandages on the other arm, with the cloak, and the two different color eyes. So this is how we're ending this teaser trailer, seeing it like that. So is this transformation going to take place like fairly early on in the anime? It seems like maybe it will. I don't think it's going to be in like the first episode, but if they're showing it this much, it's part of the key visual, and they're showing it like here at the end of the teaser. I imagine this is going to happen like sometime within the first 3, 4, 5 episodes, very early on in the series, I would say. And after it fades to black, goes to the title card here for the series, and then we get some credits at the very end. There's a very interesting bit of dialogue that I want to point out, where it basically translates to something like, since he was young, it's been Ray's dream to be a mobile suit pilot, hasn't it? Like that. And I think it's very interesting because typically at the end of a teaser trailer like this, you would put in like a little bit of like added dialogue that's very important, or like kind of like a teaser, some sort of like hint as to something that's going to be important to the series, where this, it could just be that it's just like a kind of cool sounding bit of dialogue there, where it's like, yeah, it's always been Ray's dream to be a mobile suit pilot, right? But I do wonder if this is some sort of hint or clue as to something that is more important to the story, rather than just kind of a cool little bit of dialogue. If it ends up being being something that like this whole kind of situation is just kind of like his dream or fantasy or something like that. That's probably like a little too easy. It's probably not anything quite like that, but I don't know, maybe those of you guys who are more familiar with this director's past works maybe would have a little bit more insight as to what you think that the director might be doing with this very specific bit of dialogue here at the very end of the teaser. I'm not sure, but let me know your guys' thoughts on that. So that's it for the teaser trailer and everything we know so far about the Gundam RX anime. But another really cool thing to mention about this is that this was announced and revealed at San Diego Comic-Con here in the US, which is quite unusual for Bandai to announce kind of a big new Gundam series, kind of a whole new Gundam universe in the RG project. For that to be announced not in Japan, but here in the US, it could have just been that like just due to the timing of when they wanted to announce it, it just happened to be that San Diego Comic-Con was happening at the same time, so they thought it's a big venue, it's a good opportunity to get like a lot of eyes on this project to have the announcement there. Could have just worked out that that was the case, but they had a really cool reveal where they had the whole like countdown, and then they had the two lead mobile suits, Gundam ZERO from the anime and Gundam Helix from the game, kind of rise up. They had these like probably 1/12 scale, like 5-6 foot statues of the Gundams kind of rise up there. It was pretty cool, but like I said, I did want to go back and talk about the game a little bit as well. So Gundam Rogue Orbit, as I said, was announced and we got a teaser for it last month. Not to go too much into like frame by frame through the teaser of that, because there wasn't a whole lot in terms of like what it reveals about the story. It's mostly just kind of gameplay, and but you do see the Gundam fighting against this like large alien force, and you can see a lot about how the Gundam fights too, which is quite interesting. So our lead Gundam in the game, and at least from what we can see in the trailer, and there might be and probably will be other units I assume that you can pilot in the game, but it's going to be the Gundam Helix, and as you can see, very different visual style from the Gundam ZERO. It's kind of, it still has this very human sort of shape to it, and just kind of the detail style of the design and the proportions and everything almost remind me of something that you would see from like a sci-fi shooter video game like Halo or Gears of War, something like that. Like if this had a human head on it instead of a Gundam head, it would just look like a suit for a person, right? The game's going to be releasing next year in 2027 along with the anime, and it's going to be coming out on PS5, Xbox Series X, and on Steam. But with the story of the game taking place 100 years after the events of the anime, it'll be interesting to see, what we get in the game that hopefully wouldn't be anything. I mean, you can assume there wouldn't be anything that would be spoiling the anime if they're coming out like right around the same time. As far as just like the gameplay goes, the fighting style looks very different. The fighting style that we saw in the teaser trailer for the anime, looks kind of very typical Gundam fighting style with the beam saber and everything, kind of how we normally expect like to see Gundams fighting enemies in space. But in the game, it's kind of a very different style to the fighting, and so I wonder if we'll see some more of this like fighting style that we see in the game eventually come out a bit more in the anime as well at some point, after the first couple of episodes, once it kind of starts to get probably like a little bit more weird sort of later on in the anime. But yeah, without knowing too much more about the story of the game, it'll be interesting to see how we bridge the gap, because I mean, obviously one thing that we can see that's similar is like that the Gundams are fighting this kind of alien force, but with it being 100 years later, that means that by the end of the anime, they haven't like resolved this issue. They haven't destroyed the aliens. They're still going to be existing to exist in this game, which is taking place 100 years later. So kind of makes us really have to wonder like what's ultimately going to happen, what's going to be kind of the climax of the anime. It then later goes on into the game where we're basically still fighting the same enemy, now with a very different kind of Gundam, and kind of what happens in between in like the technology of the Gundam, that it comes to have this very different shape to it. I mean, 100 years is a long time, so it makes sense that it would have a different kind of design style to it. But I'm interested to find out what's going to happen in terms of like bridging that gap, what we're going to see kind of happen between the two, how that's going to be filled in anyway, right? All right, so anyway, as I said, we're getting some new model kits and other products and stuff that have already been announced here. So the two main kits that we're going to be getting is going to be the HG Gundam ZERO, of course, from the anime, and so this one looks really, really nice. I think that the details on this look really good, as we've seen from recent years. Just Bandai has really been putting a lot more detail and a lot better technology into their HGs. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that HGs are like close to RGs in terms of like the construction of them or anything like that, but we've definitely seen some really, really nice HGs, and this looks like it's going to be a really nice one for sure. All the details and everything that we can see of that so far. It's going to have the kind of standard beam saber laser beam rifle shield combination, but the shield, it's like 2 separate shields on the arms. It's got like a kind of jetpack there on the backpack, which is different from like your standard ARC-782 backpack. It's definitely much more substantial. It's got the 2 beam sabers, and the beam rifle is more of like a beam cannon, kind of on like the back underside of the arm there. So some similar aspects, but done in a kind of different way. And along with the HD Gundam Zero, we're also going to be getting from Rogue Orbit, we're going to be getting the Gundam Helix coming out as a model kit here as well. This also looks really cool, and you can kind of see how this kit kind of reminds me a lot of the Gundam EX from the Requiem for Vengeance anime series, or the Netflix series anyway. This one definitely looking a little bit different in terms of its armaments. It's got this very large rifle and sword combination, very large sword too. So it doesn't have a beam saber so far from anything that I've seen about this, although I would assume that maybe it will, but it seems to be using just this large sword weapon, both of which can be attached onto like this big weapons platform backpack that it's got, and like the gun can kind of be broken down into parts or something. It seems, kind of reminds me a little bit of sort of like a 30 minutes mission style setup here for the weapons, and just kind of the overall design of those. So both of these new HD kits were also on display there at San Diego Comic-Con, so you can actually see like the physical products there. Those looked really nice, as well as another special earth blue color version of the Gundam Helix, which is also going to be available. But the earth blue version is going to be an exclusive game bundle version only, so I don't exactly know how that's going to work necessarily in terms of the distribution of this being sold with the game. If you're buying a digital copy of the game, are you still able to get this? I would assume that, you know, that'll all be sorted out, but this is basically just going to be something that you're only going to be able to get if you're buying it as a bundle together with the game. That kind of sucks, because if you don't want to buy it as a bundle with the game, like me, for example, if I just wanted to buy the model kit and I didn't want to buy the game, I mean, of course you could always maybe just buy the bundle and then just sell the game or something, but hopefully this will maybe be released as like a Gundam base exclusive kit or something later on as well. I would hope that they would make it available without the game included, and so that's my guess. It won't ever be a standard release. I mean, if it's going to be an exclusive, it'll be an exclusive, and I doubt that it'll later be released as just kind of like a standard release kit. But if they do release it on its own, it's likely to be like either P Bandai or a Gundam base exclusive item, something like that would be my guess. But anyway, so those are like our 2 main model kits that we're getting out so far. Obviously we'll have some more coming out later on, and it'll be interesting to see if we get model kits of the Apocalypse as well. I can assume that we will. And then obviously we saw like I said, like the infected Zaku and like the mobile armor. It'll be interesting to see if we get like a model kit of that kind of a very, like I said, biomechanical mobile armor kind of looking thing that we had there in the teaser as well. So yeah, I'm interested. Obviously we'll probably get a model kit of the gym, that would make sense, and then the Red Gundam, of course, we'll get all of that. But for the enemy mobile suits, or kind of like enemy alien force anyway of the Apocalypse, I'm very interested to see how those model kits are going to look. But we have other merchandise coming out of the Gundam Zero. We have a Gundam Universe figure coming out of the Gundam Zero as well, in the Gundam Universe line, as well as the Metal Robot Spirits. So again, we only have like line art kind of for this at the moment, but Metal Robot Spirits, just kind of small scale figures. 2 of Bandai's newer lines here, the Miximize line, which everybody's kind of memeing on. It's, I don't know, calling it basically like a Bionicle of Gundam. Basically, that'll be coming out, as well as a Gundam Cross figure, which the Gundam Cross series, if you guys remember, is kind of like those little like chibi figures where it's like the Gundam and the pilot, and you can like swap the heads on them and stuff. That'll be coming out, as well as a new action figure of the Gundam Zero as well. Now, the action figure line is going to be a new line that it says that there's going to be more information coming out in the future. So right now we don't really know what this new action figure line is all about. I would assume this is going to be kind of like a return to like the action figures, like the 5-inch action figures that they kind of used to make. As far as any other model kits coming out, I mean, whether we will see something like an RG or an MG or anything like that, you know, I wouldn't expect anything right away, although I would say that it's probably likely that we probably will see a master grade of the Gundam Zero. I would say maybe not next year, but in 2028 or something. If I had to guess, that would be my guess at the moment, that maybe like early 2028 we'll see a master grade Gundam Zero. Although I'm not sure, you know, it really kind of just depends, and also just kind of depends on how people respond to the series when it comes out. If it's well received or not, you know, would kind of might alter the plans for the release of a master grade. But it seems like, at least at this point, I'm really looking forward to the anime. I think it actually looks really, really interesting. You guys might know I've talked about it before. You know, for me, this whole fandom, I'm always much more interested in the model kits than the anime per se. I like watching the anime. I've seen a lot of the anime series of Gundam. Not all, but it's just always much more about the model kits for me at this point in my life anyway. I used to like the anime a lot more. This anime though, I think actually does look really good. I'm actually looking forward to watching this one. I think it's going to be very interesting. Like I said, I really like the sci-fi elements that we're seeing in here. So I am looking forward to it for sure. I think it looks very good from what we're seeing of it so far. So I'm very hopeful for that. One last thing just to mention too, it said that the Gundam RG series, and not RG as in like model kit RG, again, it's going to be confusing dealing with this as Mobile Suit Gundam RG being the name of this universe, is coming to the Gundam card game as well. So we have the RG project, kind of XARX Gundam anime and Rogue Orbit game coming to the Gundam card game as well. And there at San Diego Comic-Con, they had these really cool exclusive promo cards that they were giving out there apparently as well, which is pretty awesome. So all right, last thing I'll leave you guys with is just going back to what I kind of alluded to before as to, with this being a new universe, is it actually going to be in some way connected to Universal Century in some way? Probably not. I don't expect it to, but with it being named RX and with it having having the Gundam looking very similar to the RX-78 Gundam, and after just having gone through GQuax where it was like this kind of alternate dimension kind of version of the story, I wonder if there is going to be at some point like some connection in some way that's like turn A style, like far distant future, or alternate dimension, or just sort of like some kind of alternate universe sort of existing within Universal Century in some way. Maybe not, I don't think so, but it's possible. I'm not sure. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about it. But that's a lot of what we know so far. I know there was also a longer, like a 15-minute or so panel that they did there at San Diego Comic-Con as well, which may have revealed a bit more. If you guys got any more info from that, let me know. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet, but I just wanted to get this out for you guys, just kind of going over everything that was released basically on their website so far, and just kind of theorizing more a bit about just kind of going through the trailer frame by frame and everything, just kind of going through all of that for you guys. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you guys are not yet subscribed, feel free to subscribe to stay up to date on some more of this stuff in the future, along with all my other regular videos and all that. If you enjoyed the video too, make sure to leave a like. I really appreciate all your guys' support. Thank you so much. Let me know what you think of the anime, the game, what your expectations are, if you're looking forward to them or not. Let me know in the comment section. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.